Mark, in your books, you point out that trade is evolving in a variety of ways that might affect the volume of that trade. One of them being that products are getting smaller, or which means that in some cases they don't need to be shipped. This is miniaturization, it's 3D printing, it's the fact that electric cars need less parts. Can you give us a bit more detail on this, please?
Sure. I think everybody has experienced the fact that almost anything you buy now might have some sort of semiconductor device in it, which may be replacing a lot of parts and components that used to be attached to it. Many goods are now simpler to manufacture because they have fewer parts. And remember, each of those parts used to be traded. Each of those parts used to be shipped somewhere. We're seeing this not just in the automotive sector, where obviously electric vehicles are a big source of the slowing growth in trade because electric vehicles do use thousands fewer parts than internal combustion vehicle. We're seeing this in many other types of products. On the one hand, I suppose that's good because it reduces the cost of manufacturing, makes things more affordable to people, all of that. But on the other hand, there are a lot of things that just are not going to need to be shipped around the world in as much quantity as has been the case.
So, if less manufactured goods are going to be shipped in the future, what sort of growth rate in trade in relation to GDP growth are you expecting, or should we all expect?
My own expectation would be that international manufacturers trade grows quite slowly. We're talking about probably a percentage point or two slower than the growth in international GDP. Again, stuff isn't going away. We're not going back to living in caves, but I think that the growth in demand for manufactured goods is going to be sluggish, and that's really going to be reflected in the flow of trade. You can see this in some trends that people in the logistics industry don't necessarily pay a lot of attention to. One is take the data for housing starts. They're not available for every country around the world, but in general, housing construction in many parts of the world, including the United States, Europe, Japan, China, Korea, housing construction has not been very robust. Housing construction is a big driver of consumer spending. When people have a house, they buy stuff to put in it. So if there's not a lot of housing being built, that's really going to damp the growth of trade. More generally, the demographic factors here are really overwhelming. The world's population is now growing quite slowly. We have a lot of countries where the population is aging. Many countries where median age of the population is getting close to 50 years. And older people buy a lot of services. They don't buy so many goods. So I think these are factors that are really going to keep weigh on the growth of goods trade, keep it growing fairly slowly.